is people's unhappiness the source of their desire to improve too much? Are people like generally unhappy with their lives now? Or do you think that people have a more balanced perspective and they're okay with where they are, but they'd like something more and they strive for those goals in that way?
Oh, okay. That's a good one. So I like to say that there is no happy ending to an unhappy journey. And I've heard that said a lot by like different people in my life. I think that sometimes unhappiness is what inspires us to want something different for ourselves. I mean, if you think about it, if I'm not content with something, I need to take action on that and do something about it. That doesn't mean that I have to hate where I am or what I'm doing in that moment. It just means that I have to want something different for myself. It could be better, it could be different. Like it just could be simply something different. So I think that sometimes unhappiness with circumstances is what fuels us to want to improve our condition. But sometimes it can also come from a place of happiness. I'm fully happy and content with
Mm-hmm.
where I am, but I do want something different for myself, something more, something better, or just simply something different. So I don't think the desire to want, I guess I like to use the word different instead of better, but I don't think the desire to want something different from ourselves for ourselves necessarily stems from an unhappy place. Sometimes it can come from, a happy or an unhappy circumstance. But I will reiterate, there's no happy ending to an unhappy journey. Yeah.
No happy ending to an unhappy journey. That's interesting. I've never heard that quote before. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to think about that because that's a very thought provoking quote. So
Yeah.
you talked a lot about the journey, right? And so there's the goal, there's the target that you're aiming for, and then there's the journey to get there. And one of the hardest things to do is to get somebody to embrace the journey and not just focus on the outcome, right?
Mhm.
No matter what your goal is, if you can't embrace and enjoy the journey, it can make it a miserable process. And then
Mhm.
what's the point? Because you mentioned earlier, once you get there, it's not going to be some magical thing that just all of a sudden transforms your life and now you're happy, because
Mhm.
happiness kind of comes from within. So
Yeah.
can you talk more about that in terms of balancing the drive for more to achieve a goal, but also enjoying the process to get there?
Yeah, so I'll share two things, one of which is like a personal story, but like whenever I think about like goal setting, I have to refer back to like my foundation when it comes to that. So like I'm a huge fan of like Tanya Lee's podcast and the School of Self-Image, and she does a lot of work on like goal setting. So that idea that there's no happy ending to an unhappy journey, like that's where I originally heard it from. And it really made me think about, I wish I'd heard this like 4 years earlier, you know? But what I'll say is I had a similar situation where I was like focused on the goal. And so like I was working on my PhD. I just wanted to have that degree and to transition to like the next thing in my life. And so like I was really excited about having this terminal degree. And I put all my eggs into that basket at the finish line. And then I got there and it was very anticlimactic. I just remember being like, this is it. I just had that moment where they're like, oh, you've done it. And I'm like, okay. So I did all of that for this.
Yeah.
Um, I was severely depressed and it lasted for months. You think you're going to be happy when something like that happens, and then you're not. And I really had to ask myself, what happened on this journey? Why is it that I got to this goal that I've been working towards for years and I'm not happy? And it's because, one, I deferred my happiness to reaching that goal. And I assumed that that goal is where all of my happiness would exist. And it wasn't there. And I think that when we're talking about goal setting, there is that vision, like you were saying at the end. And then there's the steps that you take to get there. But between that is the feeling. Between the vision and the steps getting there is the feeling that you think you're going to have in the end. And it's about channeling that feeling now so that you can enjoy the journey of getting there. Because the journey is really where all the magic happens. And so when we're talking about like working towards our goals and respecting the process, I think that if I could go back and do it all over again, I would have enjoyed the magic and the exploration that led to the terminal degree, because the degree itself isn't really what I was after. I'm a lifelong learner. The journey of getting there was really what I wanted and was looking for. But unfortunately, because I didn't have that awareness of how to navigate my goals and not delay my happiness to the end, because I didn't have that awareness, I missed out on a lot of beauty within that journey. I was reaching for that goal and striving for it from a place of unhappiness. I did not feel like I was enough. And I thought that that degree would make me enough.
Hmm.
And so I was searching for something that I couldn't have accomplished. There's no way, this piece of paper that's hanging on a wall, which is not hanging on the wall, it's actually rolled up in a tube in my closet. But like, there's no way that that little piece of paper was going to make me feel like I was enough. But for some reason, I told myself, once I reach this goal, then I'll be finished. Then I'll be enough, whatever enough was for me at that time. And so, unfortunately for me, I was on that journey because I was coming from a place of unhappiness and not enoughness. And so, needless to say, it was not a happy journey. It was not a happy ending. But I think when you choose to be happy with where you are, because it's a choice, and you choose to operate from a place of happiness when you're working towards your goals, I think that there's a lot more purpose and meaning in that experience versus if you're fueling it from a place of unhappiness or not enoughness, for sure.
Okay. So I guess what we can say to kind of put this in like real world terms is you can be in a situation that you're not happy with, that you would like to improve. But I think the gap between that and being content is gratitude, right? We talked about that before when we talked
Yeah.
about gratitude journals, right? You can find something that you're happy about if you look hard enough, right?
Mhm.
I mean, everything's relative, right? You got it better than somebody, right? So there's certain things in your life that you could identify, whether it's your loved ones and your family members that you're grateful for. You have a place to live, you have food, all those basic things.
Mhm.
Are there little small things that give you a moment of happiness throughout the day? Do you maybe enjoy your job? Like there's different things that you can be thankful for in your life, even if one thing is not, exactly how you would like it to be. We're rarely 100% satisfied with every aspect of our lives. There's always something that we would like to be better. But if we
Mhm.
fail to acknowledge all those things that are going well that we appreciate, I think that's when we start to operate from that space of not happy, not enough, right? And
Mhm.
thinking that the goal is going to fill that gap, which you said is wrong because there's no
Yeah.
goal that you can set that's going to make you feel enough or give you happiness. That's a separate exercise and process that you have to go through.
Yes, I just wrote something down because you said something, and then when you said it, I was like, I don't want to lose this. But I think you're right. Like a portion of that is gratitude. Like if you're starting from a less than happy place, it's about what can I be thankful for that I have right now, and then it's also looking at like, hey, what is it that I'm working towards? Why do I want this thing? What feelings do I think that accomplishing this thing is going to give me? And then figuring out how you can give yourself that feeling now. So, like, I had a conversation with someone who is single and wants to be married, and it's the desire to want to have a person in their life with a certain degree of like desperation. And so, I wanted to know like what feelings are fueling that desire for you. And the three things that they said that they wanted, that they thought that they would get by having a partner in their life was, I wrote it down: belonging, connection, and peace. So now that they're able to realize, okay, this is why I want this so bad. I think that by having a partner in my life and being married, I'm magically going to get connection, belonging, and peace. And so I asked them, okay, the reality is you don't have that someone special in your life right now. It's you. You're single. What can you do for yourself right now to give yourself a sense of connection, belonging, and peace? You're assuming that having that goal is going to get you there, but the reality is it might not. So how can you give yourself those feelings now? So I think it's gratitude, being grateful for where you are, and not delaying the positive emotions that you think accomplishing this thing will give you, and figuring out how can I give myself these feelings now.
That's really good.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay. And that starts with asking yourself the questions like, why do I want this thing?
the real why.
What, yeah,
Exactly.
what am I really looking for? And then how can I go about having that now? Right.
And that transforms that unhappy beginning to a more happy one, which
Yeah.
will make your journey towards whatever it is that you want a little bit more smoother and successful and
Yeah.
probably happier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is important because, like, if we look at the continuum of where you are to where you're going, the
Mm-hmm.
space in between is much bigger
Mm-hmm.
at the ends, right? You're going to spend a lot more time on the journey than at your arrival point. And
Yeah.
what we typically do is when we reach a goal, we set another goal. So we get there and then we reset our eyes
Yes.
on something else, and now we're back to, oh, that didn't fill the gap. Now I got to focus on something else, and we restart the same cycle over
Yes.
again.
I used to be the queen of moving the finish line. Once I got there, nope. Next. It's not even a celebrating what I've accomplished, like truly celebrating it, but like at the same time, it's like on to the next thing. And now where I thought would be the happy place, I push that further and further. Once you find yourself moving that finish line like that, you're still chasing a feeling that
Yeah,
you're denying yourself of. And so you're constantly, it's like it's a never ending journey. It's madness.
yeah, yeah. It is
Yeah.
a constantly moving target.
Yes.
Yeah, that you can never catch. So yeah, don't fall into that trap because,
Yeah.
like you said, the happiness is not at the end, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
in the journey. So you got to find that and be content with that. 'Cause that's, I mean, that's where the joy is. That's where the magic is. The
Mm-hmm.
process, and the process of who you're becoming, right?
Yes. It's
Along
all
the
about
way.
becoming. Yeah.
Yeah. But you know what? A big part of that is celebrating those smaller wins, because we talked about chunking, right? You've got your long
Mm-hmm.
term goal of what you're trying to achieve, and then you've got the in between goals that it takes to get there. But sometimes we don't celebrate when we reach the in between milestones along the way to that goal. We don't take the time to stop, pat ourselves on the back, enjoy, celebrate. I'm doing better, right? I'm not all the way there, but I'm doing better than I was. I'm making progress. You did it. That self encouragement and reinforcement increases your resilience and increases the possibility of you actually making it all the way because you're celebrating yourself and you're reinforcing your progress along the way, right?
Yes, I actually had a mentor during my undergraduate studies. Her name is Dr. Candace Best, and she's truly like an intellectual and inspirational person. And one thing she told me during one of our meetings together was to always celebrate my accomplishments, no matter how big or how small the accomplishment, always celebrate it. And you can do it in a big way or a small way, but to always celebrate whatever it is that you've set for yourself that you've accomplished. And even if you don't accomplish it, there's still celebration in your journey towards figuring out what went wrong, or what, went off the tracks, and how to, redirect and get back on path. Like, always celebrate successes, and I'm using my air quotes, failures. I don't believe in failures. There's just opportunities to learn and grow. So everything, celebrate it. It doesn't have to be something big and crazy, like in terms of celebrating it. But just making sure you're doing something to earmark whatever it was that you accomplished is really important.